Hello, America. I'm Brilyn Hollyhand, 14-year-old conservative commentator and editor-in-chief of the Truth Gazette. We're here in a very special place. Not only our nation's capital, here to fight for President Trump, to fight for freedom, but we're here today in the West Wing of the White House. But not only the West Wing, we're here with Kayleigh McEnany, White House press secretary, in her office here in the West Wing. I was told right before this interview, this is her first interview in her press secretary office, so we're making history here on the Truth Gazette. Kayleigh McEnany, thank you so much for doing this. It means a lot.
Great to join you, Brilyn.
Absolutely. I mean, I know you get tons and tons of video requests, so if you did take the time out of your busy schedule, I know specifically the past few months you've been crisscrossing the country, to take the time to just sit down with a 14-year-old, it means a lot.
More than happy to.
Absolutely. We're in this fight together to fight fake news and stand up for this president, so we got a lot in common to fight for here.
Absolutely.
Previously I sat down and interviewed both Sarah Sanders and Stephanie Grisham, both who were mothers and who served in your current role under President Trump. I asked them both the same simple question about balancing work and kids, but you have a whole other layer added to that title. You were the first White House press secretary to have a young daughter who just turned one, baby Blake. We all love baby Blake. So I wanted to start out by simply asking how you balanced being a mother while also keeping up with a full-time job serving the president and fighting the fake news.
Yeah, it's a lot. Any working mom, no matter your job in this country, understands the challenge of raising children while working. I have been blessed to have a great support system. My husband, who's sitting just beyond this camera, who does a lot to help with raising Blake, and my mom and my mother-in-law. It's really a team effort, and could not do it without them. So I'm very blessed in that regard, and I'm very proud of this administration for fighting for paid family leave. It's so important that women in this country have access to childcare. But it's a challenge, but we make it all work. And baby Blake's been in this office as recently as last Friday, crawling around, surfing this little table right here. So it's you make it work, and God has been able to make both my family life and my work life just work together seamlessly. So it's a challenge, but we make it work.
Absolutely. We'll put your faith in a lot more detail later on, but you are someone that can overcome a lot of challenges, and if anybody could do it, it'd be you. And being a mother is a full-time job, and then you're being White House press secretary, which is like 2 or 3 full-time jobs.
Yes, there's lots of FaceTimes in this office where I try to get her to say "Mama." She just doesn't say it.
Well, you make it happen. You make it happen. So we believe in you. I love watching old clips of you attacking the political pundits over on channels like CNN and fighting them with dignity and grace. Do you ever feel like your previous job over on CNN, arguing with a panel, prepared you for your job today, arguing that press corps out there?
Oh, there's no doubt. A lot of people forget, but in the 2016 election, I had a much different job. I wasn't with the campaign. I wasn't with the White House, obviously. I wasn't on Team Trump officially in any capacity, but I was working at CNN. 8-on-1 panels. The host was a leftist right alongside the leftist commentators, and you were continually pummeled. You had to prepare 10 times harder than the person next to you because you had to take on 8 attack dogs at once. So there's no doubt that my time at CNN prepped me for what I was going to see when I came to the swamp, and just showed me really the bias of the mainstream media back in 2016, and now I've seen it up front and in person here at the swamp. And unfortunately, the American people oftentimes are just disserviced by not having a media that truly asks questions about issues they care about, which is why when I took to the podium, my team really tried to highlight stories that are not covered by the media. Police officers who have died in line of duty, children who have died in the streets run by Democrats. Unfortunately, far too many young children have lost their lives in places like Chicago. So we've really taken to the podium with a very solemn task of bringing light to some of these victims that unfortunately are not covered by the media.
I mean, just a few weeks ago, a 1-year-old killed down the street here in Washington, D.C. It's unthinkable, but they still want to defund the police, and they still want to try to attack this country. It's unbelievable. And you pointed out you have an incredible team, and the people sitting behind this camera have to give a shout out to, because they make this happen. This interview, I wouldn't be sitting here without them. So a little shameless shout out for them.
It's a team effort.
Absolutely,
there's no doubt.
Absolutely. Despite what you may hear from the media, President Trump has put together an all-women press team, and since Sean Spicer left this same office, he has hired all-women press secretaries. What do you have to say about President Trump's empowerment of women on his staff, and why do they refuse to cover it?
Yeah, you can count on one hand the number of press secretaries in this country's history that have been women, and 3 of those press secretaries were appointed by President Trump, all working moms. We do have an all-female senior staff team here. We had a female communications director, a female press secretary, female on the VP's team, the second lady's team running those communications operations. And this president's consistently empowered women, and it should come as no surprise because it really was him as a businessman in the early 80s when it was unheard of and unthinkable to hire women in construction at the top echelons, and this president did that. He, in Manhattan real estate, empowered women at the very top of his organization, and he respects women, he's empowered women, and I've seen it firsthand, the things he's done for women across this country, again, from paid family leave for the federal workforce and for advocating it for women nationwide. He's invested in child care block grants for low-income communities, historic low and female unemployment. This president has really been a president who's fought for women, and his results show that.
Absolutely. You are a respected role model for people across the country. Even back where I live, Kayleigh McEnany is a household name. It's no secret you do a very good job of stating facts and not getting emotional on these heavy subjects you have to cover. Have you ever thought about the future America you're crafting for your daughter to live in one day?
Absolutely, and it's an America that, as I said at the Republican National Convention, I want my daughter to grow up in President Donald Trump's America because of all of the various accomplishments I've named. But when you talk about facts, that's an important thing that we take very seriously here in the press office. Oftentimes, you're in the room where we prepare for the briefings. In the file cabinet behind me, my great executive assistant Lindy has literally labeled all of the press briefing books with dates, so they're all categorized and will be presidential records. And we're very proud of those books and the work that goes into those books. And we have two people who are real rock stars in this administration, Chad Gilmartin and Julia Hahn, and it's usually the three of us sitting here in the office, and we will sit here for hours and hours. I'll never forget the first press briefing, sitting probably right here as I prepared for the very first briefing, going through the facts of the day, I think we got here at like 6 a.m. for a 1 or 2 p.m. briefing, and I'll never forget one reporter saying, "Why is she already prepping for the briefing? It's like 8 a.m. Like, we got here at 6 a.m. So we really take seriously our duty to the American people to deliver facts, which is why Chad and Julia will sit here and we'll put forward something that we want to say to the press corps. Julia will say, well, let's just make sure that that's 100% the factual circumstance of the matter. And Chad we constantly question the information we have because we want to make sure that every single thing we say has a footnote, has something we can point to its truth and its legitimacy. And we spend hours in here making sure that what we say at the podium is the truth of the matter. And we've spent I think we've done more than 50 press briefings at this point. It takes a lot of time, a lot of hours, and a team that really takes the responsibility of delivering information in the middle of a pandemic very seriously.
And the hard work shows. It's not just going out and giving some political speech. You come out with facts, and you come out with that big binder that's so famous now, and you deliver it.
Yeah, one of the things that I think we did differently with this press shop than any previous press shop, and I'm very proud of it, is we wanted to make journalists do their job. Forever, you've had, as I've noted, journalists who have treated Republican administrations one way, Democrat administrations another way. I stand at the podium, and you have a Playboy reporter shouting at you as you're trying to speak from the back of the room. It's something that a Democrat press secretary will never have to deal with, and we really wanted to hold the press accountable in a way that hasn't been done before, and ask them. Oftentimes you'll see me from the podium say, "Oh, I noticed you asked me a question, and you noted 4 words of what the president said. Do you have the transcript there of what he said?" "Oh, no, I don't." And they leave out the other half of what the president says because he's a Republican president, he's a fighter. So we've really tried to hold them accountable, just like they try to hold the political class accountable.
Absolutely. I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the president's accomplishments. So one of the main things he's been doing, specifically in the past few months, is brokering world peace, and he's done an incredible job with that. Actually, right before we came into this interview earlier this afternoon, I know you're probably prepping for different things along this, but right before this interview, the president had secured another peace deal in the Middle East with Morocco. He announced that this is the 4th major world peace deal in 4 months. That's incredible. Absolutely incredible. You see presidents that are in office for 8 years and maybe get 1 world peace deal if they're lucky. He has 4 in 4 months. It's absolutely incredible. Obviously, you won't hear about this on the mainstream media, but it's historic. What do you have to say about President Trump's recent peace deals and all of his achievements, and why won't the media cover it?
Yeah, having 1 Middle East peace deal is historic. In fact, I believe it's only 2 presidents prior to this president that had a Middle East peace deal. Chad, am I right on that?
2.
2?
Correct.
2. See, this is how we fact check in this office. So 2 prior to this president had Middle East peace deals, and then President Trump took the world by surprise when he got 1, and then another, and then another, and then a 4th. So he is the only president to have ever had 2 Middle East peace deals, let alone 4, not to mention his Serbia-Kosovo agreement. So this president is a president who will look at these 4 years that he's had so far and say, you know, I've had multiple Middle East peace deals. I'm a president who's brought forward peace. I'm a president where a war has not started on my watch. His foreign policy record is something to behold, and really Jared Kushner deserves so much credit, and Avi Berkowitz and Robert O'Brien and this team that I'll never forget being at CNN when this administration began and having the CNN commentators just mock the notion that Jared has been put in charge of Middle East peace, you know, the president's son-in-law, and they were talking about nepotism. And I remember that moment, and it's incredible to sit here 4 years later, and Jared, what a brilliant guy he was, so deserving of having that negotiating role, now saying I have 4 Middle East peace deals, more than ever has happened in the history of the world. It just goes to show that this president knows how to pick the right people, and Jared Kushner has quite a legacy on his side.
Absolutely. I mean, speaking of the president's accomplishments over the past 4 years so far, we're looking forward to the second term. President Trump has accomplished more than any other president in U.S. history. I think we can all agree on that fact. If you had to name one, which accomplishment do you think was the greatest help to America?
That is a great question. There are so many, but I think it's undeniable that his legacy with the court, having 3 Supreme Court justices, we were really at a tipping point in this country where the court was leaning liberal, and what is at stake there is, I think, what goes to the very heart and fabric of what makes the United States of America, the United States of America, freedom to worship, the right pro-life, the right to life, which is embedded in our founding documents, not stamping God out of our Pledge of Allegiance and out of society entirely. We were really at a tipping point culturally in this country, and the courts were at the epicenter of making those decisions on critical rights that we have, like the First Amendment, freedom to religion, and having 3 Supreme Court justices, appointing more federal judges than I think any president has ever in 4 years, is really his landmark achievement. There are so many, it's hard to choose, but I think the impression he has left on the courts, to me, is the most important thing that he's done for this country.
And our judicial system is important in this country, and the fact that President Trump, you know, the business mindset in him came in and said, you know what, we're gonna fix our judicial system and bring it back to actually help America and further protect this country, protect our Constitution. Because there are people right down this road to the Capitol, in the Speaker's office, who want to take away our Constitution, who want to change the way it's written. And this president's protected that, and he's put judges in place to protect that for centuries. So,
absolutely.
Let's talk about social media censorship. You know, social media censorship has been on the rise in the past few months. I've personally been censored on Twitter. I know you've had your account temporarily banned. And almost every single tweet the president puts out on Twitter has to get some type of warning label, even if it's not election related, it gets some type of warning label. The president obviously believes social media is a powerful tool to get his message out to the American people, and I do as well. You know, what is the president planning to do to fight conservative censorship on social media, and does he plan to start an account on a free speech platform like Parler?
You know, I don't know about the president's future plans for any given platform, but what I'll say is he is certainly very focused on fighting for the rights of all conservatives on social media. He wants to see Section 230 repealed, which gives Twitter and other outlets immunity from liability. It is what allows them to do what they do with no accountability, and you know, it just tells you everything you need to know. And every other tweet of the president's is flagged. And when I had my team just go look, and within 5 minutes they found that the Ayatollah Khomeini had questioned whether the Holocaust had ever happened, and that tweet isn't flagged. Such an egregious thing to say, and it's not flagged, but they'll flag the President of the United States. It's really a danger in this country to have social media running unaccountable, and this President will fight for the repeal of Section 230, because folks like the Ayatollah Khomeini, if you're going to be flagging, I should probably be the first to be flagged.
It probably should be the first. I mean, nobody on Biden's team has been flagged, not a single Democrat to my knowledge, and you can fact check that, but I don't think anybody, a single Democrat has been flagged, suspended, anything like that, because they don't get censored, and Twitter doesn't do that, and it's the double standard. The rules don't apply to that party, and somebody has to do something, and I think the president has a pretty good shot at repealing 230 and fixing that. So
we hope so.
We're looking forward to that. Closing out here, people talk about how you prepare, or how prepared you are, and how you prepare for your press briefings, how you just are so put together. And they see your famous binder that we talked about earlier. They see your famous binder every single time you walk out of that podium right down the hall. Now, I believe that binder helps prepare you a lot, but I also know your faith plays a huge role in how you walk out in that room. You've talked about how you got nervous before your first press briefing, and you called your family and friends and you prayed, and you do a daily devotional, which helps a lot. The media doesn't give you an opportunity to speak on your faith and how that's gotten you to where you are today. So I wanted to give you the time at the end of this interview to lay out how that has helped you and how that platform of faith has gotten you to where you are today in the West Wing of the White House.
Yeah, it helps a lot. Look, Sarah Sanders, I remember talking to her. She was two press secretaries before me in this role, and she said that she would always read her Jesus Calling devotional before going out to the podium. And my husband got me a Jesus Calling. It's sitting right there on my desk, which I read as well. And I'll never forget being so nervous before my first press briefing and sitting in here, and Sarah Sanders sent me a picture of her Jesus Calling from that very same day. I think it was May 1st, but I think it was 2 years prior, and it really spoke to my heart. And I know Sarah was very successful in this role, and I've tried to follow in her footsteps in making faith central to what we do. We prep a lot, we are meticulous, we over prepare, we prep that binder, but certainly faith is at the center of what makes this a successful operation. We pray every time. We haven't done one press briefing where the last thing we did before we went to the briefing room was to pray in this room.
Wow.
So we've had the chief of staff pray with us before a particularly hard briefing. I forget which one that was, but it was one where we were real nervous, and he was in here and said a prayer. And we had various members of the staff say a prayer. It's the very last thing we do before we walk out there to talk to the American people and to face the press corps. So it's central to what we do here. In addition to our preparation, I wouldn't be here today. God had a path for me, and I'm here along with every single member of my team, which He put in my life and my path in this West Wing for a particular reason.
Absolutely. I said on Twitter a few weeks back, I don't believe in coincidences. I believe that God has planned for everything, and He's put all these people in our paths to do this interview today, for you to be in the West Wing, to get you out of CNN and come work at the White House.
That's right. It's much more fun here.
I bet it's a lot more fun.
Yes,
you get to relax a little bit, but you do a lot of work, and we just really appreciate you taking the time to do this. You're so busy, so incredibly busy, but you took the time to sit down with a 14-year-old, and it really means a lot. Thank you so much.
An impressive 14-year-old with a bright
Absolutely.
future.
Thank you so much. Please keep fighting. Please keep standing up for this country. I know you will. We've got a battle ahead of us, but I think we'll see what happens.
God is in control.
God is always in control. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Kayleigh McEnany, everybody. You've got a bright future. Thank you so much, Kayleigh.
Thank you.